Belarus is a small country in Eastern Europe. It is landlocked between Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. It has a population of around 10 million. There are two official languages, Belarusian and Russian, with Russian being the more accepted of the two. Modern-day Belarus didn't come into being until the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1990, with full independence being recognised in 1991. In the last few years, protests have broken out once again in the country against President Alexander Lukashenko. What has happened in the country to spark this fresh round of protest? Did Belarus swap one dictator for another? Is there hope for a genuine democracy for Belarus? Well, tonight we will explore the recent history of Belarus and help answer some of these questions. During the rise of the USSR, Joseph Stalin pushed a policy of Sovietization on the smaller countries commanded by Russia. The point of this was to create a clear division between the Workers' Republic and the Western powers. It was important for Stalin that the West was seen as a real and substantial threat. Khrushchev continued this policy, stating, "The sooner we are all speaking Russian, the faster we can build communism." In fact, in 1988, there was a mass grave of Belarusians found. They were presumed to have been killed by the Russians between 1937 and 1941. This discovery led to a push towards independence for Belarus. The fall of the Berlin Wall was a great opportunity for the nationalists in Belarus. 1990 saw fresh elections for the Supreme Soviet of Belarus SSR, with the country changing its name to the Republic of Belarus on August 25, 1991. Stanislav Shushkevich, the chairman of the Supreme Soviet of Belarus, met with his counterparts from Russia and Ukraine to formally declare the dissolution of the USSR. V.F. Kaibek was Belarus's first president. He served in the role from 1991 to 1994 and was well known for his pro-Russian stance. He urged Belarus to forge a monetary union with Russia, quite like today's euro, as he believed there was a spiritual and cultural bond with Russia that should not be severed. His death came in December of 2020 due to the coronavirus. In 1994, following the emergence of a new constitution, Kaibek ran against the current president Alexander Lukashenko. Lukashenko lured voters with a populist rhetoric, declaring, "I am neither with the leftists nor with the rightists, but with the people against those who rob and deceive them." Lukashenko won 45% of the overall vote, promising to protect Belarusian values. It didn't take long for Lukashenko to show his authoritarian cards. In 1995, Lukashenko pushed forward with a referendum on 4 items. 1. Granting the Russian language the status of a state language. Number 2. Changing state symbols. Number 3. Economic integration with Russia. And number 4. Giving the president the right to dissolve parliament. Needless to say that this was heavily opposed by those in parliament, particularly the 4th option, some even going on hunger strike. The Office for Security and Cooperation in Europe found at a parliamentary assembly that neither the referendum nor the 1995 Belarusian parliamentary election, which took place in the same month, had met conditions for free and fair elections. On the 25th of November, it was announced that 70.5% of voters of an 84% turnout had approved the amendment to the Constitution. The US and the EU, however, refused to accept the legitimacy of this referendum. After the referendum, there was an attempt to impeach the president. Lukashenko responded by convening a new parliamentary assembly for those members of parliament who were loyal to him. Several deputies withdrew their signature from the impeachment petition, and the Supreme Council was dismissed by Lukashenko. 1998 saw the Central Bank of Russia suspend trading in the Belarusian ruble, which led to a collapse in the value of the currency. Lukashenko responded to this by taking control of the National Bank of the Republic of Belarus, sacking the entire bank leadership and blaming the West for the free fall of its currency. The increase in rhetoric towards Western powers saw ambassadors being expelled and a declaration of ambushing by the West. It was around this time that there was a burst of opposition against Lukashenko. A death squad was set up to threaten and kill opposition politicians. In 1999, 3 politicians disappeared. 20 years later, a member of the death squad came forward to reveal what he had done. 2004 saw an abolishment of term limits, leading to the 2-term presidential limit becoming what has now become 6 terms of an authoritarian personality. Belarus has been referred to as the last dictatorship in Europe. Lukashenko continued to consolidate his power in the early 2000s with a range of referenda. These referenda was not seen to the wider world as fair or free. 2014, Lukashenko stepped in to create the Minsk Protocol, an agreement surrounding Russia and Ukraine. This brought the heads of Russia, Ukraine and the US to the table to agree terms. This meant that there was very little resistance in 2015 elections. Lukashenko was seen on the international stage as somewhat of a hero who was able to create dialogue and end to the violence in Ukraine. Lukashenko realised that the fall of Ukraine or of Russia would have devastating results for Belarus. Which leads us on to today. 2020 saw a fresh round of protests accompanying a new election process. Lukashenko claims to have won by 80% of the vote. However, Lukashenko also declared on national TV that it was actually 95%, but they had to reduce it because it would look too suspicious. The Amman police were some of the most violent in the 2020 protests. A statement by the UN Human Rights Office on September 1st cited more than 450 documented cases of torture and ill treatment of detainees, as well as reports of sexual abuse and rape while in custody. At the end of 2020, the Vyazna Human Rights Centre documented over 1,000 such testimonies. With protests not subsiding amidst a growing pandemic that the leadership denies, what is next for Belarus?